When I first started dating Chris, I thought I had won the lottery. He was kind, dependable, and, unlike my ex-husband, he wasn't constantly chasing the next risky scheme that left us broke. He had a steady job in finance, a nice apartment, and the kind of calm energy that made me feel safe after years of chaos. I brought my son Dylan from my first marriage into the relationship, and to my surprise, Chris embraced him from the start. He never tried to act like Dylan's dad, but he was present. Helping with homework, showing up to soccer games, and even building a desk for Dylan when he started high school. At first, I couldn't believe how lucky I was. I used to brag to my friends, Chris is different. He's the kind of man who shows up. He doesn't just talk about responsibility. He lives it. My friends would nod, and I could see the envy in their eyes. Most of them were still dealing with flaky exes or partners who acted more like children than men. But over time, something in me started to shift. Dylan was growing up fast, and his dream was to go to an elite private university. The tuition? Just under $80,000 a year. My ex-husband was completely unreliable financially, always between jobs and dodging child support. I didn't have that kind of money saved up either. But Chris did. He had investments, savings, and a steady six-figure salary. And in my mind, if he truly loved me and Dylan, he'd step up. I started planting seeds months before Dylan's senior year. At dinner, I'd casually bring up tuition costs, scholarships, and how stressful it was trying to figure it out. Chris would listen, nod, and say things like, "I'm sure you'll find a way," or "Dylan's smart. He'll land some aid." His answers frustrated me. He said you and not we. One night, after a glass too many of wine, I blurted out, "It must be nice not having to worry about stuff like this. You could write a check tomorrow if you wanted to." Chris set his fork down and looked at me steadily. "That's not fair, Amanda. Dylan is your son. I love him, but it's not my responsibility to pay for his college." The words stung. I shot back, "So you can afford vacations, new suits, and investments, but helping the boy who calls you a father figure is too much?" His expression hardened. "Don't twist this. I support him in countless ways. But $80,000 a year? That's not a favor. That's a lifelong financial commitment. His education is something you and his father should handle." I rolled my eyes and muttered, "Selfish." That was the moment the crack in our relationship split wide open. After that, things were tense. Every time Dylan got another college acceptance letter, I'd wave it around with excitement and then pointedly sigh about the costs. Chris would stay quiet, sometimes excusing himself to another room. I thought the guilt would get to him eventually, that he'd cave just to keep the peace. Instead, he grew colder. The breaking point came when Dylan got accepted into his dream school. An Ivy League university. He came running into the living room, waving the letter, his face lit up brighter than I'd ever seen. I hugged him, cried with joy, and then looked at Chris, expecting him to share the moment. He clapped Dylan on the back, congratulated him warmly, and then said, "Now comes the hard part. Figuring out how to pay for it." I froze. Dylan's smile faltered, but I jumped in quickly. "Don't worry, baby. We'll make it happen." I shot Chris a look, silently demanding he back me up. Instead, he just nodded and walked to the kitchen. That night, I confronted him. "Do you realize how humiliating it was for Dylan to hear you say that? He looks up to you. And you basically told him his dreams aren't possible because you won't help." Chris's voice was quiet but firm. "Amanda, I've told you from the start. I am not paying $80,000 a year for a kid who isn't mine. That doesn't mean I don't care. I'll help him apply for scholarships, I'll support him emotionally, but I won't bankroll his life." Something inside me snapped. I shouted, "Then what good are you? What kind of man lets the woman he loves and her child drown while he sits on savings?" He stared at me for a long moment, then said the words I never expected, "What kind of woman gets into a relationship expecting a man to replace her responsibilities?" The silence after that was suffocating. I stormed into the bedroom, slammed the door, and cried into my pillow. I told myself he was cold, heartless, not the man I thought he was. But underneath the anger was fear. The fear that maybe I had overplayed my hand. 2 days later, I came home from work and noticed his shoes were gone from the entryway. His suits were missing from the closet. The desk he built for Dylan was still there, but everything else of his had vanished. On the counter was a single envelope with my name on it. Inside was a note. Amanda, I love you, but I refuse to be used. You've made it clear that you don't value me unless I open my wallet for responsibilities that aren't mine. That's not partnership. It's exploitation. I hope Dylan does amazing things, but I won't be around to see it. Don't contact me. Just like that, he was gone. I tried calling. Straight to voicemail. I texted, begged, apologized, promised I'd change. He never replied. When Dylan asked where Chris went, I lied and said he needed space for work. But kids aren't stupid. He looked at me with disappointment, and I could see the truth written in his eyes. He knew I had pushed too hard. Word spread among our circle of friends. People whispered that I'd run Chris off by demanding he fund my kid's life. Some said I treated him like an ATM. Even my own sister told me bluntly, "You ruined a good thing." Men like Chris don't come around often. Now, months later, Dylan's attending a state school on scholarships. He's making the best of it, but I can tell he resents me. He doesn't say it outright, but the distance is there. We don't talk the way we used to. Meanwhile, Chris has disappeared from my life completely. I heard through a friend that he's seeing someone new. A woman with no kids, no baggage, no expectations that he carry the financial weight of her past mistakes. They post pictures together, smiling on weekend trips, hiking trails, living a life I thought I'd share with him. Every night, I lie awake replaying the moment I called him selfish. The irony is suffocating. Because the truth is, I was the selfish one. He gave me years of love, support, and stability, and I threw it away because he wouldn't cut an $80,000 check. Now I'm left with nothing but the bitter realization that I gambled my relationship on money. And lost everything that actually mattered.